Hello everyone and welcome back to the Stormblood Dungeon Lore series. In these videos I'll do my best to explain the lore behind each dungeon of Final Fantasy XIV and go over some things about them that you might not know. Today's dungeon is Doma Castle. To speak of Doma is to speak of the Rijin clan, particularly Ganen Rijin, the man who over 800 years prior founded the fledgling nation in the Yanxia region of Othard. Although before this, the region was a highly sought-after location, the strength and leadership of Ganen managed to claim the region for his clan, and would not long after go on to construct a great castle. This castle, however, was not upon a hill or a mountain like most, but placed almost directly upon the One River in an effort to use the raging waters and uneven surface as a natural defence against attackers. Although this seems like a fool's errand thanks to the erosion and flooding that would naturally occur in such a place, the beginnings of the Rijin clan had many geomancers at their side. These geomancers would examine the area surrounding the potential foundations for the castle, and determined it to be replete with the right amounts of earth energy, meaning it would be sturdy enough to last. This would ring true, as the castle stood for centuries without fault, never a recorded flood overtaking the lower echelons of the place. However, in a somewhat ironic twist, the castle would be subject to a fire that would burn much of the palace, necessitating a reconstruction of the damaged areas. For its defences, the inner walls of Doma Castle were eventually deemed inadequate for its purpose, and the outer ring of walls would be put into place some 250 years prior to the current era. In current times, the castle still stands, but since the Garlean invasion 25 years ago, as well as the rebellion to oust the Garleans led by Rijin Rijin, descendant of Ganen and 43rd King of Doma, the castle is under imperial rule, with the nominated viceroy, Yotsu Yugoe Brutus, currently living in the palace and looking down upon the domain she abhors. After our extended visit to the Azim Steppe, we triumph at the Naadam and claim the Zayla tribes for Doma. Immediately afterwards, Grimoire shows up once more, demanding a fight with the Warrior of Light. With the Zayla at our backs, however, he is easily defeated by the might of those such as Magnai or Sardu, still in the heat of battle. After the remaining Imperials flee, Hien calls to the Aura tribes, telling his story and bidding them fight for Doma as the Hatun wills. They agree, looking forward to the fight, and the group heads towards the southwest section of the steppe, where a previously sealed passageway lies open, leading back into the northern parts of Yanxia. We say a temporary goodbye to Cyrena, who wishes us well for the coming battles, and knows that the Dusk Mother looks upon us with favour. After proceeding back to the House of the Fierce in Yanxia, the rebels there are happy to see Hien, and we find Alphino and Alizé awaiting us. We discover that more countrymen wish to aid in the fight, as well as several Kojin of the Blue. We also discover that Yotsuyu seems to be shoring the castle's defences, making ready for a huge operation in the coming days. Alphino then begins outlining his plan for the capture of Doma Castle, a multiple-step arrangement in which the other defences surrounding the castle, including the enormous Magitech field, are disabled, allowing for a smaller party to infiltrate and make their way up to the palace proper to capture Yotsuyu. All are in agreement with the plan, and we begin to assist around the House of the Fierce for preparations for the operation. We visit Tataru to collect a blueprint for the Magitech field generators, followed by a search and discovery of nearby Imperial spies. After dealing with them, we make our way to Namai to assist Issei with collecting armour for his fellows, to which end we find an old blacksmith called Tsurunuki. Although skeptical at first, he agrees more fervently to assist after discovering that Lord Hien still lives. Following this, Hien wishes to visit Monzin, the large town just outside of the castle, where he sadly reminisces about the times when the streets bustled with his fellows, and we eventually reach the shore opposite the castle. After Hien looks on with determination, reminiscing his better days with his peoples, he is struck by a sudden inspiration and bids the Warrior of Light return to the House of the Fierce to tell the others. After returning, Hien requests a Kojin representative, and after he arrives he expresses quickly his new idea for the plan. He means to destroy the outer wall of the castle, allowing the waters to rush in and the majority of Garlean troops to be out of position or otherwise held up by the flow. Although Gosetsu protests this decision, Hien seems steadfast, determining that the walls of a castle do not a nation make. Alphino agrees to alter the plan and Soroban agrees to inform his fellow Kojin sappers of the changes. Later that evening, we find our allies unable to sleep the night before the plan, and join them at the table for a drink. Gosetsu mourns his past life, regretting the many failures seen in his eyes, but Hien shoots him down, reminding him to save his tears for the morrow, and calls to Yugiri for her to join as well. The next day comes and we follow Hien back to Monzen to await the signal for the operation. We then see the plan being put into motion, with Lys leading the Namai citizens into the castrum to cause as much havoc as possible. Following this, the Aura of the Steppe fly in on their own Yol, easily dismantling the aerial defences of the castle and securing the area from more flying machines. Next, the Magitech field is successfully disabled, and Alphano signals the Confederate ships to sail across to protect the Doman Enclave from potential assault. As they do so, firing upon the castle as they go, a loud explosion rings out, and the Warrior of Light and company run to see the damage. The Kojin too have managed to play their part in destroying the wall, successfully flooding the lower half of the castle. We see Yotsuyu within the castle looking down upon the destruction. Unconcerned, she asks the soldier of Grimwat, to which the soldier replies that the experiment was a success. She then reminds him of the promise made to Xenos that it either be their lives or the Doman's. Back outside of Monzen, Hien now moves to put his part into play. We follow him down to the mercantile docks and meet the Kojin boat captain, ready to take us across the waters. Hien informs us that to increase the success rate, he plans to steal into the castle alone, while the rest form their own party, intending that at least one group must reach Yotsuyu to end the madness. He then gives us the go-ahead to enter the castle, not just for himself, but for Doma and his people. We take the small boat to the base of an imperial scaffold set up at the castle just as the sun rises over the Yangshan Mountains, where we can clearly see the chaos still unfolding inside the walls. As expected, thanks to the waters flooding the lower levels of the castle, much of the imperial resistance is also stationed atop the scaffold, and they fight fiercely as we push our way through to the antechamber of the place. After a small troop of soldiers and a horde of Magitech slashers, the party continues upwards where they begin receiving gunfire from a Magitech gunship as they continue battling the troops and colossi defending the scaffolds. We reach the section before the third armory where we encounter the bombarding gunship, managing to destroy it before it causes more havoc, and we enter the armory proper to face the Magitech rearguard, placed as a last line of defense before reaching the next section of the castle. Like most Magitech machines, the rearguard unleashes a handful of ballistic attacks with its weapons, using Garlean fire to drop flaming bombs ahead of itself. It also calls for several Magitech bits, some of which travel across the arena lined with a dangerous explosive, while others fire dangerous lasers across the arena. When injured, the rearguard increases the ferocity of its attacks, doubling the amount of missiles fired with its Garlean fire, after which the party disable the machine and proceed to the inner section of the walls. Immediately we can see the level of flooding caused by the wall's destruction as a shallow stream flows even at this higher level. We head towards a set of doors which burst open thanks to another Magitech machine, after which we head through another layer of the wall where the waters finally cease. Here the party finds heavy defences set up by the Imperial troops, with Gatling guns positioned to fire indiscriminately upon any trying to force their way towards the palace entrance. Behind the guns, another platoon of soldiers defend the entrance fiercely, and after felling them, the rubble at the end of the corridor explodes, allowing us entry to the training grounds. As we enter, another door on the far side bursts and a Magitech hexadrone rushes forth, attempting to bar our entry to the upper reaches of the place. The drone again is equipped with many weapons, although unlike the rearguard it seems more designed for collateral damage in combat instead of a small group. Circle of Death pushes away any caught within its deadly spin, and it unleashes a Magitech missile that must be absorbed to stem its worst effects. Additionally, the hexadrone calls forth more Magitech bits, each equipped with a trigger sensor that blasts any that break the beam of light projected by it. If caught, the bit blasts away its victim and knocks them far away. As the hexadrone becomes more desperate, it fires multiple missiles as well as drastically increasing the amount of bits, before finally falling and allowing us into the castle proper. We enter into the Tenshu, or the castle tower, where we can see even this far up the castle crumbles and burns steadily. As we approach the stairs, the roof caves in and blocks them, followed by half a dozen of the Doman's shadows, shinobi alloyed with Garlemald that defend the place with their lives. Following this, we take the right-hand staircase clear of debris and are ambushed by another set of shadows before reaching the Hall of the Four Pillars. The screen door opens and reveals a final armoured weapon guarding the antechamber to the throne room, where it is joined by a final wave of the Doman shadows. The weapon attempts to use its launcher to heavily damage any caught within it, and after it falls we can finally proceed to the Hall of the Scarlet Swallow, where the final defender, not of the castle but Yotsuyu herself, awaits. From the direction of the top floor of the castle, a mad voice rings out, wielding a mighty chainsaw and extremely overlarge muscles before he jumps to the arena. Hien meanwhile takes the lead to pursue Yotsuyu, while we face the now hypertuned Grimoire. Although his strength is vastly increased, it's worth noting the process of hypertuning requires the blood of the user to be infused with chemicals to keep up the level of strength. Grimoire therefore carries a huge device on his back, which circulates his blood to keep a constant supply of said chemicals at all times. As a result, he fights more ferociously and brutally than ever before, using his chainsaw to grind away at the tanking party member. He is also equipped with more tools than before, using a few different explosives to plant them on party members. He plants a low damage explosive on 2 of the group to deal damage, and plants a timed thermobaric charge, which can only be mitigated by moving as far away as possible once the bomb is placed upon the floor. Intermittently, Grimoire also calls forth several spinning blades, each of which shoots at lightning speed across the arena after a time, damaging and pushing back any caught within them. After Grimoire combines his thermobaric charges with the Magitech bits similar to those of the Hexadrone, we finally see Grimoire stagger, still desperate to take us down with him, and as his machinery short-circuits, he falls to the floor, moving no more. After this we finally catch up with Hien, who has Yotsuyu at his blade's end. Caught and defeated, the Viceroy begins explaining her past, how she was mistreated and sold off as nothing more than property. She goes on to say of how once she knew the thrill of seeing a fellow Doman in agony, desperate to live, she was happy as an Imperial spy. However, after she finishes speaking, a great rumble comes forth from within the castle grounds, and the sounds of explosions begin occurring all around. Yugiri realises this was the plan all along, and after deflecting a shot from Yotsuyu and cutting her down, Hien and the rest move to flee. Suddenly, the roof caves in from above and comes down upon the group, only to have them find Gesetsu holding the roof with his might. Though the others eventually resign to honour his words and let him save them, Yotsuyu stirs and unloads all of her rounds into Gesetsu's back, giving a truly evil grin as she declares that no one leaves. After a final goodbye from Hien and the Warrior of Light, we flee the keep on the Yol brought by Cyrano. The latter notices the missing Gesetsu, and although she makes the turn back, the keep finally goes up in flames, exploding at every angle, wrenching the spire from its rooftop. The group looks on in horror as the central keep sinks into the waters, before returning to the mercantile docks once again. And that's the end of the story and lore of Doma Castle. A centuries-old structure, long-standing the many attempts to overthrow it, as well as the raging waters having their own turn at thrashing at the walls. Instead of falling to the eventual natural means, the castle falls to the whims of someone that used to be an ally of the Domans, turned spy and enemy of the state, wishing nothing but hatred upon her kin. Although Hien resolves to speak with his subjects after restoring Doma, the group in its entirety takes a solemn view in the fact that the many lives lost, Gesetsu perhaps most of all, will move the country forward to a better place. Lys meanwhile turns her head towards Girabania once more, with lessons learned and changes made, hoping to bring the same justice to Alamigo as she has accomplished here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel for more Final Fantasy XIV lore, and I'll see you next time for Castrum Urbania.